Ms. Belden, your next witness, please.
Okay, Your Honor, I would like to call Kevin LaRose.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
You've been called as a witness in this matter by Ms. Belden and her client. She's going to have some questions for you, and then if he chooses to, Mr. Coleman may have some questions for you, okay?
Right.
Thank you. If you'd raise your right hand, please. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Ms. Belden.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. LaRose. Can you state for the record your relationship with the defendant?
I am the defendant's husband.
Okay. Do you know the plaintiff, Mr. Coleman?
I do.
Okay. Recall when you first met him?
I believe that would be the summer of 2019.
In what context did you meet him?
My wife and I were dropping off Isaac.
And, do you recall the next time you met Mr. Coleman?
I believe the next time would have been us picking him up after the 5 weeks in Hawaii, the summer of 2021.
And do you remember anything about that interaction, or was there anything that stands out in your memory from that interaction?
I guess I was a bit surprised it went sort of well.
Okay, great. And then when was the next time you saw Mr. Coleman?
Would be the about a year later, picking up, or actually, excuse me, no, I was dropping off Isaac the summer of 2022 to go to Alaska.
And who was with you for that drop off?
My wife, Mr. Coleman, and Isaac.
Okay. And do you remember where you met for that exchange?
Yes, that was at the Civic Center Park.
And do you recall how that exchange went? Can you describe to the court what took place with that exchange?
Yes, my wife and I arrived at the park with Isaac, and there was Mr. Coleman on the bench. We were shirtless, seemed odd. About 1 p.m. He was drinking a beer, asked us if we would like one. Both said no. I definitely didn't say much. I was trying to observe for the most part.
Okay. Did the defendant say anything to Mr. Coleman at that time?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Was there any reaction to Mr. Coleman drinking a beer?
Yes. After he asked us if we would like some, my wife expressed her concern about him drinking while caring for Isaac, and he said, well, I think I'm a better parent when I'm drinking. And then for the first time I said, well, how does that work? And I believe you mentioned something about being less nervous, but honestly, I was a bit kind of shocked and don't really remember his response.
Okay. Did you take the beers with you? Do you remember how many beers had been consumed, or how many beers were on the table?
Oh, he was holding one, and there were 3 in the container.
Okay.
Total of 4.
Okay. And then the next time you saw Mr. Coleman would have been?
That would be the pickup after Alaska.
Okay. Okay. Can you explain to the court what happened with that pickup, or how it went?
We arrived to the Econo Lodge. Surprised to see Isaac and Mr. Coleman sitting outside, maybe 30 feet or so from the hotel itself. All of their belongings. Isaac looked very solemn.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? What did you say? I heard solemn.
Isaac looked very solemn.
Okay.
Mr. Coleman was smoking a cigarette. They weren't talking. I pulled our car up and got out of the driver's side to open the trunk. And we hugged Isaac individually, my wife and I. And Mr. Coleman started to go through the items. I don't know if he was moving around the contents or maybe taking some stuff out. I guess. It's that point when he mentioned that my wife had a house and he had a storage unit. And then I remember him saying, quote, "Don't throw away my shit." It's getting escalated at this point.
Okay.
Sierra said, "Please don't use that language in front of Isaac." It was right there. And it was just like a minute or so after that, Mr. Coleman shouted "Aloha" and kind of stormed off.
Did Mr. Coleman say goodbye?
I think that was the "Aloha."
Okay. Did Mr. Coleman say a specific goodbye to Isaac? Was there a hug?
I think there was a hug.
Okay.
Isaac looked away though. He didn't make eye contact.
Isaac looked away during the hug. I'm sorry. That's okay. What was Isaac's demeanor after Mr. Coleman walked away?
He didn't say much. My wife and I continued to hug him and say excited to see him. And wasn't really until we all got back in the car, started to ask some questions about the trip that he began to open up.
Okay.
Happy to see us.
How did he open up?
We sort of asked how his return trip was the previous night. Gone.
Okay. And what was his feedback?
I believe he said it took a long time. It's a long flight. I don't remember if they had a layover, but that might have been possible.
Have you had other contact with Mr. Coleman?
Not in person.
Okay.
When we sent my phone back to him, he got my phone number and started to send text messages.
How did Mr. Coleman get your phone number?
He requested Isaac's phone to be sent to him from my wife.
And you did that? You sent the phone to,
Yes.
and that's how he got your phone number?
I'm assuming, yeah.
Does he communicate to you via your phone?
He sent text messages. I believe made a couple calls, but I'm not engaged.
Do you accept the calls?
I do not answer them, no.
Okay. Can you tell us the nature of the text messages?
They're very much aligned with the type of correspondence he sends to my wife.
Okay.
Threatening, harassing.
Threatening and harassing. Okay. I have a text message that's was admitted as to Exhibit 4 to my supplemental response. Defendant had provided to me. If I can read it to you, can you confirm if this sounds like the text message, a text message that you received?
Yes.
From Mr. Coleman? "You are so dishonest. What is wrong with you? You are going to pay for this, I promise." Does that sound, did you view that as threatening?
Yeah.
And did you respond to that?
Did not.
The next message I see is, "Are you that bad a tuba player, or they just slandering you? Never heard you, but I play a mean French horn, son. That's a joke. Isaac likes you. Man up, boy." Do you know what that means?
Not really.
No. Okay. Again, did you respond? Okay. Next one on that same day says, "Love to hear you play in court. You got my attention." Again, do you know what that means?
No, very confusing.
Last one. Okay. I told Isaac, "I like you. Do not disappoint me. You never hurt him, and I respect that." Still a chance to come clean before I get really fucking real motherfucking. I from the South, boy, we don't play. I serve God, I love my son, and you disrespected us, man up. Does that sound like another text you received?
It was.
Did you view that as threatening?
I did.
And did you respond?
No,
And do you know what he means by that?
I don't. I'm wondering what I did to disrespect him or Isaac. I don't know.
From your experience and observations, do you believe the plaintiff and defendant co-parent well together?
No,
Okay. Do you believe they communicate well with each other?
not at all.
Okay. Isaac?
Do.
Were you concerned about Isaac leaving for the trip to Alaska?
Yes, I was.
Can you explain your concerns?
Majorly or primarily, I would share my wife's concerns.
Okay.
Having a very little or limited knowledge or familiarity with Mr. Coleman, I definitely didn't have any or much personal reassurance. Of course, just taking her word is real first person experience.
Okay. Did you help Isaac prepare for that trip to Alaska?
I may have helped him gather his belongings.
Okay. Do you see Isaac have regular phone conversations with the plaintiff, Mr. Coleman?
He does those in his bedroom upstairs.
Okay.
It's twice a week.
Okay. Do you and the defendant listen in on those phone calls? Have you seen a difference or do you see a change in Isaac's behavior after he's had phone interactions or time with Mr. Coleman?
Definitely. There's a noticeable change in his overall demeanor, particularly when Mr. Coleman was reading all the litigation documents word for word. Isaac would often come downstairs in tears. My wife often has to beg him, sometimes multiple times a day, to call his dad. It's not an easy thing to sort of encourage him to do.
When he comes down in tears, does he tell you why he's in tears?
Not me personally, but I've heard from my wife.
Has there ever been any domestic violence in your home?
No.
Do you provide for Isaac's needs, his food, clothing, his home?
Yes.
Okay. Did you go with Isaac and the defendant to fairs this past, or festivals or fairs this past summer?
I attended one where I was.
Okay. Can you explain what that fair environment was like?
Yes, very family oriented for the most part. It was definitely where we were spending the most time. My wife was at the vending area right next door to her. A good friend of hers who also brought 2 children.
Okay.
They were together all the time.
What do you do for a living, Mr. LaRose?
I am a music educator. I teach private students 4 days a week, employed by TCAPS and Marshall Music.
Okay.
I teach in at St. Francis and Traverse City Central High Schools, St. Elizabeth and East Middle Schools. And I work with the beginning trombone students at Immaculate Conception in the spring.
I appreciate your testimony. I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Do you have any questions for this witness?
I do. Mr. LaRose, you stated that I said, don't throw away my shit. Do you consider that cussing or calling Miss LaRose or you names?
That's cussing. I wouldn't call it names, but being that Isaac was 2 feet away, that seemed inappropriate.
So, at any point during that interaction, did you tell me to take my property and leave Michigan?
I did not.
Were you aware that the property in the backpack that I gave to the defendant belonged to Isaac?
I was not.
So when I walked away, I did hug Isaac and say goodbye to him. And then as I got several feet away, I said aloha, correct?
I only remember the aloha.
Okay. So with the, did you ever say, or the defendant say, that you didn't have room to store Isaac's property or my property in your home?
I don't believe there was ever mention of room, but my defendant did ask you to let her know before you ask her or assume that she will store her belongings.
Do you know what that property is that she is storing for me?
No.
Bringing Isaac, was any of the items taken out of the boxes and packed? Or were they still in the packaging when you brought them? This camping gear?
Objection. Can you just clarify what time period you're talking about, Mr. Coleman?
When they dropped Isaac off at the Civic Center, were any of those items taken out of the boxes and packed for Isaac before you arrived?
I believe they were taken out of the shipping packages, containers, but not fully opened.
Did he have a camping backpack to pack his stuff in? Or did I bring one from Hawaii to provide for him?
I believe you sent him one as a Christmas gift before that.
And did I ever mention that I had friends in Alaska during that interaction?
I do not recall that.
Did I mention any of my plans for Alaska during that interaction?
I do not recall.
Did I offer you a beer when you showed up to the park, you and the defendant?
You did.
When you left, did I ask you to take them with you?
I don't recall that, but I could see that.
Do you feel comfortable bringing Isaac and dropping him off, or picking him up for the airport in Michigan when I arrive and when I leave?
I would do that.
During the interaction at the hotel, when I mentioned that I only had a storage unit to store my extra property, and you had a 5-bedroom home, how did you feel that related to Isaac storing his property or my property?
Objection. I'm confused by the question. Can you clarify that?
Let's see, I mean, we should know if the witness is confused first. I don't know that he may, if he is, he can let us know.
Okay.
Yes, I don't know what's being asked.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do you feel that you have room to store Isaac's property in your home?
Yes,
Do you feel I need to ask permission to store Isaac's property, such as his camping gear for Alaska, in your home?
No.
Was any of the property that you brought to the hotel, did any of that property belong to me?
property I brought to the hotel.
To the hotel, yes.
We didn't bring anything to the hotel.
Was there a box mailed to the defendant with property in it from Alaska?
I don't recall that.
Do you remember what time that you came to pick Isaac up? You and the defendant.
Only after hearing it recently, but I guess it was 10:15.
10:15. Do you remember what time you made plans to come and pick Isaac up?
Do not.
I believe that's it, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Belden, any redirect?
No, I do not.
All right, thank you very much, sir. You're all set.
Thanks, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Ms. Belden, any further witnesses?
No.
All right. So at this time, we'll proceed with closing arguments. If you choose to give one, but for Mr. Coleman, it's basically a summary of how you view the evidence played out and again, what your request is to the court. It's not necessarily, well, I'll say it this way, it isn't your opportunity to testify again. It's really just a summary of what the evidence is or was as you see it, and what you want the court to do with your request. So we'll start with you, and then Ms. Belden will be able to offer a closing if she chooses.
Well, in closing, Your Honor, after just speaking with Kevin, he seems willing to bring Isaac to the airport or drop him off. I'm willing to try that. If the defendant is not comfortable with Jason Coates, which he stated, then I believe that can work with Mr. LaRose, and I feel like that would squash a lot of the conflict between me and the defendant. Also, I'm willing for the July 10th, or maybe a couple days after, closer to Isaac's birthday, so he can still, celebrate his birthday in Michigan, which is very important to him. I would like to keep every Wednesday and Sunday. Communication is working very well. And like I stated before, I'm, every other day while Isaac is in Michigan, if that makes the defendant more comfortable. He, can call her from his phone or my phone if for some reason he's not able to use his. What else? I really believe that's the family wizard. I don't have very good service where I live. It's kind of hard to use the app and communicate on it. The defendant has to, check it, and she's busy a lot of times. But I'm willing to try that again if, if that's an issue with the defendant, or maybe use a different app or a different way of communication that is, easier for both of us. I really believe that's it. And once again, I'm willing to, if the defendant wants me to send pictures of where we're living and contact my friends, she's more than willing to do so. I'm sure they would be happy to talk to her and relieve any concerns she has. So
Thank you. Ms. Belden?
Yeah. Your Honor, we're asking that the court deny the plaintiff's August 31st, 2022 ex parte motion regarding parenting time that was heard today. The parties have a June 1st, 2021 stipulated order in effect that allows the plaintiff 5 weeks of parenting time in the summer months. Under Michigan law, MCL 722.27, a court can only modify a custody order after weighing 3 issues, those issues being proper cause shown or a change of circumstance since that last order went into effect. The plaintiff submitted no evidence today. It was strictly his testimony. I do not see proper cause or change of circumstance there to warrant an increase in parenting time. There is an established custodial environment. It has been with defendant mother this entire time. The final factor is the proposed modification in the best interest of the minor child, and our position is no. The proposed modification is not in the best interest of Isaac Coleman. There's clearly Isaac loves both his parents. Isaac has concerns. I'm glad that there will be the in-camera interview for him to be heard. There's a real breakdown in communication between the plaintiff and the defendant, making it very difficult for these parents to co-parent. I know under Michigan Court of Appeals that it's the critical issue in analyzing whether sole custody should be awarded to a party is whether the parents can cooperate and agree generally concerning important decisions affecting the welfare of the child. That is in Schulich v. Richards, 273 Mishap 320, a 2006 Court of Appeals case. These parties cannot cooperate and agree on these things. You heard, the phone issue and who has the phone, and plaintiff has concerns about Apple Watch being used and won't allow Isaac to use the Apple Watch, and plaintiff has concerns about defendant's schooling with the child. Plaintiff has concerns about the child going to a counselor. Since this order went into effect, Isaac has not been to a counselor because plaintiff will not consent to it. Defendant believes that Isaac would benefit from seeing a counselor. The testimony and the evidence shows that plaintiff stood in the way of communications with the child and the defendant and used the communications as a tool to try to manipulate the defendant. That's not okay. That's not looking out for the child's best interest. I don't know if it's the PTSD or what's going on, but plaintiff's behavior is very erratic. It's very concerning. The way he talks to the defendant, the barrage of text messages that are all in the exhibits are really horrific. The way he talks to the defendant is appalling. The way he talked to me as an attorney, after having no interaction with them, simply filing a responsive pleading, very concerning. The way he talked to the defendant's husband, the text messages he said to him, very concerning, very threatening. He even puts threats in his pleadings with the court. He insults in his pleadings to the court. He sends insults to the defendant's father. It's concerning. I would argue that there's some paranoia going on. Plaintiff is very concerned about white privilege and being discriminated against based on his ethnicity in Traverse City in the Kingsley area, not feeling safe. There's concerns about his ability to provide for the child. Summer of 2022, he takes a 12-hour flight, getting him in 12 hours early, and he puts it on the defendant to figure out what's going to happen with the child. He couldn't get a hotel room. He couldn't provide food for the child that night. He had to have defendant find a hotel room, purchase the hotel room, and then use the cash that defendant had as an emergency reserve for the child. Plaintiff did not have himself organized at all. He did not have the means to provide for the child, and that's a concern. What we're asking is that 2021 order be upheld, that plaintiff return to Marilyn Fitzgerald based on his behavior for an updated psych evaluation to show a commitment that he has mental stability. We want a professional opinion as to his mental state, to make sure that Isaac would be safe in his care for 5 weeks unsupervised. We would want that psych eval to be completed before any parenting time would be exercised. We're asking for defendant to be awarded sole legal custody. As both parties have acknowledged and testified today that they can't co-parent with one another. We're asking that all communication be done on our family wizard, starting immediately, as it's really inappropriate and abusive, the communication that the plaintiff has had with defendant for all these years. And we need some sort of software system in place that will provide her some protections. We're asking again that 2021 order be followed by the plaintiff, requiring him to provide an address and phone number where to the defendant, with sufficient time, letting her know where all his overnight parenting time will be exercised. We want an itinerary. We want the order to include defendant being allowed to obtain a counselor for Isaac without plaintiff's permission or consent, because he's in good faith withholding that. And then we're asking for a recalculation of child support. Thank you.
Thank you. The court will take the matter under advisement, issue a written opinion. As we discussed off the record, the court will schedule an in-camera interview with the minor. That will be in person, just so I can place on the record, Mr. Coleman and Ms. LaRose, it was a request, but no one's objecting to an in-person in-camera. Is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay, just so I have that, and that's how I will schedule it then and conduct it. Other than that, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you.